right, it is time for Friday Reads. Hey everyone, it is Shannon, and I'm super excited to be here today and to share with you this Friday Reads video. In my Friday Reads videos, I share the books I finished, the books I started, and anything interesting about books I'm carrying over week to week. This week I do have a little bit of everything, but I am going to start off a little bit by sharing what I'm reading in April, because I had a couple of weeks without doing Friday Reads videos, and I didn't do an April TBR. So I am going to start by talking about the readathon that I am participating in, and then my general approach to April as a whole, and then on to some of my carryovers and upcoming books. So that's how we are going to be doing things. So first off, the readathon that I am participating in is the Write Classic SFF Readathon, which is created and hosted by Maya from Maya Reads. Hi Maya! And I am really excited to be participating. I actually decided to go with the reading challenge of being a portal expert, which is to read from 3 different speculative fiction genres or subgenres. And for classic SFF, we are talking for anything written before the year 2000. So that is the readathon information. I will leave a link to Maya's introductory video and TBR down below if you would like to check it out. The readathon goes from April 1st, which was a while ago, until April 11th, so through to the end of the weekend. And Maya recommended and encouraged people to read shorter works, and that is one of the things I did. So you could actually read 3 short stories and still participate in the readathon, or if you're super keen, and have lots of reading time, you could read 3 novels. You can read whatever you want. Graphic novels, I think all of the things count. So I actually decided to go with 1 short story, 1 kids novel, I think, and 1 classic novel, or modern classic. So the short story I decided to go with is in this great Ghost Stories compilation by Dover, who I actually really like. I have a lot of Dover publications. And I read The Phantom Coat by Amelia B. Edwards, and this is a horror story. So for the portal expert, this is my horror selection. I went with horror, fantasy, and science fiction. So, and it was just 10 pages, and it was, as you can imagine by the title of The Phantom Coat, it was a spooky paranormal story. It was interesting because it's from 1864. It's a woman writer, but it has a male protagonist, which I was a little surprised at. And it's about someone who is traveling and they need a way home, and what mode of transportation do you think they need to or end up taking. So I enjoyed it. I read it in 1 sitting at only 10 pages, although it did take me about half an hour. But I've been timing all of my reading recently. Sometimes I always do like these additional things around reading, and I'm a bit in a space of doing that. So yeah, so, and also like this is, there's not a lot of space, of white space, and so, but I enjoyed it. And it is from 1864, so I think it's okay. That just taken me a little longer to read that one. In terms of fantasy, I decided to pick Castle in the Air by Diane Wynne Jones. This is the 2nd book in the Howl's Moving Castle series, and I read Howl's Moving Castle a couple of years ago. I wasn't a huge fan. I actually haven't seen the movie, but there were certain characters and moments and themes that some that I really liked, and some that I thought were really interesting and engaging. So although it wasn't a big hit with me, I thought it would be fun to continue the series. It's only a trilogy. I am a completist. I like to finish things, so I thought this would be a good opportunity. It's also more of a kid's novel, so I thought it wouldn't take me that long. Wow, I gotta say I'm really, really not enjoying this one very much. I think part of the challenge that I'm having with this one is the representation. I didn't expect, because the first one, I don't feel like there was a lot of, it's been a while since I've read it, but I don't feel like there was a lot of indication of where or when or like it was located. This one has a very distinct, and I didn't pick up on it. There are things that would let you know in terms of some of the stylings on here that would indicate where or when this could be set, because this is a sort of the Castle in the Air, the theme or the story or the retelling is sort of like a magic carpet retelling, and I I don't know. I don't know how I feel about the representation of it. And so I'm finding it a bit uncomfortable to read. And because I don't like spoilers, I don't want to look things up. So, but I did look up people's ratings on Goodreads, and some people really enjoyed it and some people gave it more like a 2. So there were lots of 2s and 4s. So I'm just going to stick with it. I think I'm about halfway through. It's not that hard to read. I do like that the chapters start with drawings, and there have been some cats introduced, and so I'm liking that. I don't know how long the cats will be part of it, but I like the cats. But it's a sort of like magic carpet genie djinn situation, and I'm mostly feeling uncomfortable. So I'm going to not only finish it, but then also process how I feel about that in terms of the representation. And I don't even know if I imagine like what the background is of the author, and how I feel about all of the things. So I will be processing that, but for right now my focus is going to be completing that. Next up for science fiction, I picked The Female Man by Joanna Russ. Oh, and Castle in the Air was written in 1990. And The Female Man was written in 1975, and this is by Joanne Russ. This is my science fiction choice, and it is, I think it's a dystopic or a utopic. I don't want to read it. I am literally like 4 pages in. It's got very short sections. Of course, like it's got lots of chapters, like very just sections, and I think it changes perspective a lot. So far, I'm still just trying to get centered in the world. I think it's supposed to be like familiar but different, and the science fiction elements, if I'm understanding them correctly right now, actually feel a bit more paranormal. So, or like not pseudoscience, I don't know, like it's very interesting and engaging, but it is a more attention needing kind of read, which is actually not a bad pairing because I have one more light read. Like, I'm not, as I mentioned, I'm not super enjoying it, but it's easy reading, and this one is much more intellectual, which I am really excited about. So this is my science fiction pick. I do think I'll finish Castle in the Air by the end of the readathon on Sunday. I think I will end up carrying this over because it's a more challenging work. I'm okay with that. I hope Maya's okay with that. And because this has also been on my TBR for a long time. This is one of the books that I had wrapped up, and I had regretted wrapping it up because I won it in a giveaway from Anita Reads' channel years ago, and I wrapped it up, and then I was like, I have no idea where it is. So it was one that when I unwrapped all of my books in December, I was thrilled that this was among them. I knew it would be, but I just didn't know which science fiction book it was. So I knew I wanted to read it early in the year. So I'm happy to be reading that now. So that's how the readathon is going so far. I actually feel like it's going pretty well. Although I'm having some mixed results, that's fine. In some ways I thought I might DNF Castle in the Air and pick up something else, but honestly, I'm having decision fatigue big time. So I'm like, the decision's been made, I'll just keep reading. That is the easiest thing for me to do, and sometimes that's what I choose. So that's the way of it. So now on to my April TBR. As I mentioned, I didn't end up filming one. I actually decided on a bit of a different approach to my April TBR as I was looking at my stats, and I will do a March reading reflection later. But I did notice that there's one of the challenges I set for myself this year, which is the biggest, like the most volume of works to be read in this one challenge, is actually to read my own physical books. And I set this to read. The number is about 150 for the year, which is roughly half. It was actually 125, but then there was another 25 that are specifics and slightly different. So it's a lot. Okay, so it's a lot. So easy, and I've only read 13. So 150 is the goal. I have read 13, so that leaves 137 to go with 9 months left of the year, which is actually really 8 because I always give myself December off. So 8 into 137 is around, I think, 17. So I know that 13 to 17 is my goal for the months that remain. So my focus is going to be on reading my physical books, and I have no idea how this is going to go. One of the challenges that I know that I have with this is that if I look at my stats, which I do because I track them, the majority, a lot of the works that I read are visual works, be it graphic novels, comic bind-ups, manga, as well as short works, novellas, poems, collections, these kinds of things. But the vast majority of my physical book collection is novels, which is one of the categories I read the least of. So I'm kind of like having this moment where I'm like, this is really strange that what I own is not actually that representative of what I read. However, I often can be pulled by what I need to read right now, what's accessible, like so a hold came in at the library, feeling like I'm using all of my credits at Hoopla, so I want to read like 8, because we get 8 here in Toronto, they bumped it back up to 8 last year, so I want to get good value from them, but it's like, I'm not paying for Hoopla, like it's great that it's there, but I don't have to read from Hoopla, but I want to, and here it's all, what we have access to is like comics, graphic novels, and manga, as well as movies, TV, and music, but no audiobooks, which is fine because I don't read a lot of audiobooks. And then I do also kind of want to, though, get value from Scribd because I do pay for Scribd. But one of the things that I love about Scribd is that there is no deadline. So I'm often reading a lot of things from Scribd at the same time and listening to audiobooks for a long time because it takes me like 3 to 6 months to finish an audiobook. I do tend to finish about one a month-ish, but it takes me a long time. So I'm having this sort of like really weird moment of recognizing that, and then of course trying to figure out, well, if I wanted to, I can reform the habit of reading novels and continue to read the physical books that I own and just reestablish that. But there's also part of me that like, I have actually no idea what I want because I've just sort of fallen into all of these things. And a lot of my projects and challenges that I do throughout the year, I don't give a lot of thought to access. That's actually not true. I've already thought about access. I've now decided not to give myself challenges where I don't have access to the books. So generally speaking, they're books that are available through the library or through Scribd or public domain or, something. So generally speaking, I already do have access to them in some way, shape, or form. So yeah, anyway, so what I decided to do, and I don't know how much sense this makes, but what I decided to do is I looked and saw how many titles I normally read a month, and it's around 30. At some point last year, I tried to start to finish sort of like a title a day, not maybe each individual day, but, if the month was 30 days, I read 30 books. If it was 28, I read 28. So that's been what I've been doing for the past several months, and so I'm like, okay, 30. Let's work with 30, and April actually is 30. So if there's 30 days, 30 titles, 17 are physical books, and that leaves not a great number. I actually started with 13. See, the numbers are all over the place. Anyway, so what I decided to do to make the numbers match up a little easier, so I took 30, I'm taking 16, and I'm saying, okay, 16 physical books. The remaining, no, that's not it. Where's the math? Okay, sorry about that. So 14 physical books, okay, which leaves us with 16 books, which is easily divisible by 4. And so I'm going to try and read 14 physical books, and then 4 books from the library on Overdrive, 4 books from works from Hoopla, 4 works from Scribd, and 4 on Kindle, which is like a whole other ball of wax. I actually don't, a lot of the Kindle books I have, I got for free, so I don't really worry about if I ever read them or not. But yeah, so that's what I'm going to try and do. So 14 physical titles and then 4 Hoopla, for Kindle, for Overdrive, for Scribd. And so I did make a TBR for that, and so I did pick out all my physical books, and this is on it, and this is on it, and hopefully I will finish these. They're very slower reads. And then I also did a chart in my reading journal. So, and I put 4 and then I added it to 6 because, you know, I always want more. And then I left a spot for other just because there are other situations like rereads and stuff like that. And so we'll see how things go. And yeah, I don't know. So yeah, my numbers are totally different here. Physical is more like 17 to 22. So I am not really quite sure what's going to happen, but that's the approach. And one of the weird things about this is that I know that I'm going to fail. Every TBR I create, I only read about half, although for the Women Write Classic SFF, I'm actually doing pretty good, although I won't finish this in time, so technically it probably will be half. So I know, generally speaking, I only read half. The other thing is I know I'm probably going to read more from Hoopla and from the library because holds come in. I read a lot of shorter works there. I read a lot of manga there. You know, sometimes I'm reading like 35% of my reading is manga. That is all from the library. And so I'm going to track this and see, what do I read? What's the pull? Why am I reading this and not this? And also I can change my end goal. Like this was just like, I just was coming up with goals and I was like, all right, physical books. And I just made up numbers. I'm like, let's try for half and see what happens, because half seems to be the way to go. So I have a feeling, as I mentioned, I will fail, but I don't know how disastrously. And I also am going to note, like, why. Like once I hit 4, or once I don't, you know, like once I hit 4 in Hoopla or Overdrive, I'm also going to note, why did I keep reading this? And also sometimes, like with library books, like I will read them and then stop reading them and then come back to them and re-request them and stuff like that. So sometimes that's what happens. And so there are also some scenarios that I don't think of. And with my Kindle, I don't always think about it in terms of reading books on my Kindle. So that was actually really good to look at my big spreadsheet list of all of the books on my Kindle and be like, okay, let's pick 4 for this month and see what happens. That's great. And I did that with Scribd as well. And oftentimes they were like, oh yeah, I want to read all of this author's work. I have several of their works. I'm going to read that. Oh yeah, I started this series. I really enjoy it. Let's read the next one. Oh yeah, you know, there's this graphic novel that's available on Scribd and I haven't tried it yet. Let's read that. Like sometimes it was really good to make these active choices, and like it made me feel like I am and will get good value for the services that I use or I have or I subscribe to. But I do realize that with Hoopla, I do put a priority on that one sometimes because things expire and I want to get good value, but I'm like, but I'm not paying for it. Whereas with Scribd, I'm like, yeah, whatever, I'll just keep reading it. I'm like, I don't know. And so like, I don't know if it makes sense to switch those up and be more focused on Scribd. Like I have no idea. So, and with Kindle books, I'm like, you know, and also with physical books, sometimes I feel like that this one I got as a giveaway win, and this one I got at Toronto Public Library Bookends. Like I paid $1 for this, like 3 years ago. Like I don't want to hold any kind of tension if I do or don't read this book. The money's gone. I'm not going to get it again. And with this one, it was $1. Like, honestly, I don't feel stressed about that at all. I know a lot of people feel like really stressed about getting through their physical TBR or physical books. I don't, but the fact that I have access to them now because I unwrap them all, I need to get back into the habit of going to my bookshelf, picking stuff out, and reading it. But again, I'm coming up with the challenge of the fact that a lot of what I read isn't novels, and a lot of what I own is novels. But, so we're going to switch gears, and I'm going to share just a little bit about some of the other books that I am reading. I am, because there was a segue, a very awkward segue, but I need to jump something in the middle of the segue before we get to it. I am continuing to read Les Miserables. I started this for March of the Mammoths. I am almost done the first volume. So, and this is going to probably take me until I think the end of the summer. I read it for about 20 minutes a day, 5 times a week. So it's a long game one, but I'm fine with it. It's also, it's so heartbreaking. So many things in it are so heartbreaking that I like 20 minutes a day is fine. I don't know if I can actually stand more than that. So, but I am hoping, I think I will switch to the second volume, hopefully this week, so that'll be very exciting. And then one of the other books that I'm working on is Sweater Quest, My Year of Knitting Dangerously by Adrienne Martini. And this is nonfiction. So that is something else that I do have on my shelves that I do read a fair amount of is nonfiction. I do tend to read a lot of it on my tablet through Scribd or through the library, but I have a fair amount of nonfiction. And this one I actually got in Powell's years ago. And it's about a woman who decides that there's a particular sweater she wants to knit, the Mary Tudor, designed by Alice Starmore. And this is around the time when like blogging was starting up and becoming really popular, and there's lots of people who wrote books that were based on sort of projects or things that they did documented through their blog. I don't know how much I don't know if she was a blogger. She talks about reading blogs, but she doesn't talk about blogging. But it's been really interesting, and the whole last section I read was about Rhinebeck. It wasn't a huge section. I know Sarah from the Bookish Knitter has talked about Rhinebeck, so that was really fun to hear about it. And actually, right now she's in Toronto too. So and she talked about even the store where I actually learned to knit as an adult, which was called Let Us Knit, and it's in Kensington Market. I don't know if it's still around actually. So there's been some interesting. Been some things that I've really enjoyed and appreciated. There's some other things that I'm a little. There are some things that are very of the books of this type of this time, of which I've read a fair amount of because it was I started blogging in 2006, so there's lots of things that are familiar, even if the specifics are familiar. But it also is, and I've mentioned this before, that even though I am a knitter, I have almost zero references for some of the things that she's talking about, with the exception of Ravelry, which is a great website, which I didn't know was founded by a Torontonian, which is really cool. But a lot of the knitting stuff I don't relate to, and then that's also really weird because it feels kind of inner circle kind of stuff, which I'm never a fan of, especially when you feel like you are part of a community. But I wouldn't actually say that I'm part of a knitting community. I knit, but I'm not a community knitter. I'm not, I can't remember the last time I went to Ravelry, and I have I can't even remember what's the name of there is a site where you can share your own patterns and favorite patterns. I can't remember it. I will leave it down below. I actually do have a profile there. I think I've even uploaded pictures of something I did. I don't even remember. So anyway, but I'm very close to finishing this. I'm hoping to finish it this week. And even though I started this before April, it will probably be the first physical book that I finished. Oh, that's not true. I did finish Jurassic Park. I already put it on the shelf. Anyway, so yeah, so I'm hoping to finish this week. And then the other book that I wanted to mention is Aru Shah and what's it called? Oh my goodness. The next book that I'm buddy reading with Izzy is the first Aru Shah book. I'll just pull it up. I did not prepare. And not that one. And The End of Time by Roshani Chokshi. So this is the next book that Izzy and I are buddy reading, and Kay Kelly has joined in as well. Yay! So if you have not read Aru Shah, or you have started the series and not continued, you are welcome to buddy read with us. This is a middle grade urban fantasy mythology based book, Own Voices, and the live stream or the live chat will be on Izzy's channel on Tuesday, April 27th at 7 p.m. So so I thought I would mention it in case anyone needs any lead time on getting the book. The chat about Maya and the Rising Dark was awesome, and thank you so much, Kate Kelly, for coming and joining us. It was so much fun to have you there, and Maya and the Rising Dark was really, really great. This one has a sort of similar vibe to it, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's the first in a series, and if I imagine we will, Izzy's already read the book, so I know that she liked it, and if we all like the book, I imagine we will continue reading on the series. I have ordered mine. It's coming in the mail. Apparently there is a index at the back, so I decided to go with a physical copy for that one, and although I think I have the second one on Kindle, I bought it. It went on sale at some point. That will count for reading a Kindle book, and this will count for reading a physical book, even though it's a new book. So let me know about like this whole like reading your physical library. How much do you feel like you need to do it, or have to do it, or want to do it? Do you actually like think about that actively, that you want to like reduce the amount of unread books or any of these things? I think for me, most of it's going to be about reestablishing the habit of reading physical books, and I'm glad that I have a fair amount of books like this that are very thin, floppy, light paper kind of situation, so that they won't be taxing on the hands. In fact, all of these have been really fine for that. This one, the most I miss is the hardest because I use such heavy paper that it can be a bit challenging. Oh my god, the one I altered to make it easier has been the hardest. It's not too hard. I'm not super precious about it. Anyway, so I know that was very rambly. That always tends to happen if I end up having some time off between videos. But yeah, so I will leave a link down below to all of the books I mentioned, all of the things I mentioned, that Ravelry. Oh my gosh, it's driving me bananas. What it's called? I'm not going to remember it on camera. It's one of those things that like, you just know, like I just know once I can't remember, then I'm focusing on the fact that I'm not remembering, and I'm not actually trying to think of it anymore. I won't be able to remember, so I will leave it down below. And yeah, so let me know what you are reading. Have you participated in the Women Write Classic SFF Readathon? Are you going to join us to read Aru Shah? Let me know your thoughts, and I will be back soon, hopefully sooner than last time, for another video. Thanks so much for watching.